February 9, 1942. Fire breaks out on the Normandy, a magnificent ocean liner anchored in New York Harbor. She has been converted to a troop carrier, ready to take 10,000 American troops to wartime Britain. Crewmen rush to extinguish the fire, but within an hour, winds whip the flames out of control. 3,000 crewmen must evacuate the ship. Thousands of New Yorkers watch the spectacle. 12 hours later, the Normandy rolls on her side. There is speculation of Nazi sabotage, but an official inquiry concludes the fire was an accident due to negligence during the conversion. Over 30 years later, there is a shocking revelation. The fire may not have been an accident. This program investigates the story and the suspects behind the catastrophe. A story of Nazi sabotage on American soil and secret deals between the American government and the mafia. Could someone have possibly launched such an attack on America's East Coast? In 1932, the Normandy is launched at Saint-Nazaire in France, the embodiment of luxury ocean liners. She is the first to exceed 1,000 feet in length. Her remarkable dimensions are matched only by the elegance of her interior. Nearly 2,000 passengers could enjoy this floating paradise. Art Deco restaurants, deluxe lounges, and a fully equipped theater. This is the golden age of transatlantic liners, and many of her passengers are stars like Mary Pickford and Bob Hope. Not only is she beautiful, the Normandy is also fast. She breaks the speed record for crossing the Atlantic and receives a tremendous reception in New York City. But her glamorous life is brought to a sudden end. September 1st, 1939, Adolf Hitler invades Poland. Britain and France declare war on Germany. World War II has begun. At the outbreak of the war, the Normandy is caught in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, where German U-boats have begun to prowl. She continues her journey in a zigzag pattern and sails directly to New York Harbor. Fearing German attacks, the Normandy is mothballed at New York's Pier 88. Her massive capacity and speed make her a potentially impressive transport ship. But America is not at war. Still, the German Secret Service instructs its agents in New York to monitor the ocean liner for any signs of activity. For 2 years, the Normandy's owners maintain a skeleton crew to look after her. Meanwhile, the United States has become increasingly involved in the war. And though officially neutral, President Roosevelt offers assistance. Through the Lend-Lease Act of March 1941, Roosevelt sends weapons and essential materials to Britain in her greatest time of need. Convoys of ships transport American goods across the Atlantic. German U-boats track them, but cannot strike at U.S. targets. Hitler is frustrated that he cannot cut off this vital lifeline. As the new Vichy French government collaborates with Germany, President Roosevelt acts decisively. He orders the U.S. Coast Guard to board the Normandy and place her under protective custody, a key French asset now in the hands of the American government. The Normandy will never set sail again. 7 months later, Japan launches a preemptive strike at Pearl Harbor. With this blow, the United States enters the World War. 4 days later, Hitler declares war on the United States. That same day, his ally, Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, follows suit. In the Reichstag, Hitler vows, "We will always strike first. We will always deal the first blow." The Nazis begin to select potential U.S. targets, confident they can strike New York, and the Normandy is at the top of the list. The U.S. Navy takes control of the Normandy and renames her Lafayette in honor of the French hero who helped the Americans in the Revolutionary War. She is repainted in naval gray, and 1,500 dock workers are put to work converting her into a troop ship. On February 28th, she is set to sail to Boston, where she will pick up 10,000 American troops. It is a tight deadline, and U.S. ship workers must labor around the clock. But the great ship will never make the journey. The Normandy lies in the mud of New York Harbor, less than 2 months after Hitler threatened to strike America first. Immediately, the government launches an investigation into the fire and subsequent sinking. The FBI and U.S. Attorney Frank S. Hogan interrogate more than 100 witnesses. A Navy Court of Inquiry is also established under Rear Admiral Lamar Leahy. The official report concludes that the burning of the Normandy was caused by civilian incompetence. The fire, the report states, begins in the first-class Grand Lounge. A stray spark from a workman's torch lights a nearby pile of life preservers. The fire then spreads from the promenade deck to the upper decks of the ship. The fire alarm is delayed by 15 minutes. By the time 2 fire engines and a fireboat arrive, the ship is engulfed in flames. More boats arrive to help douse the burning ship, but so much water is poured onto the top decks that it collects there. It will prove a fatal error. Pumping machines cannot remove the water quickly enough. The fire is brought under control, but the liner is fatally damaged. The ship lists onto her port side and settles on the bottom of the harbor. This is the official government report, but few people believe it. The fire seemed too intense to be an accident. Many suspect it is the work of Nazi saboteurs. Could Hitler's German agents have really destroyed the Normandy? German spies have infiltrated the New York docks since World War I. American industry was producing arms and munitions for the British and French. The harbor was considered a legitimate target by German embassy officials. Among them was the German defense attaché in Washington, Franz von Papen. In the 19th century, thousands of Germans immigrated to America. Among them, potential saboteurs. In 1915, Franz von Rentelen is sent by Berlin to disrupt the Allied shipping efforts. He contacts von Papen. Soon, Rentelen is recruiting longshoremen to plant explosives on ships. a rash of mysterious accidents begin damaging American ships and their cargoes. Von Rentelen returns to Germany, disguised as a Swiss businessman. But British counterintelligence is tipped off by a decoded German message, and von Rentelen is arrested while in port in England. Von Papen and other German embassy officials are expelled from the U.S., but acts of sabotage continued. In July 1916, ammunition freight cars and barges explode at the Black Tom Island terminal, shattering windows in Times Square and causing $14 million worth of damage. It was a devastating demonstration of what German spies could achieve on the American mainland. In 1942, the Normandy suddenly catches fire in New York's harbor. Was this the work of a similar group of German-American agents? When we return, the FBI and their campaign in the 1930s against German spies in America, agents of destruction on the East Coast. 1942, the burning of the Normandy, perhaps the greatest act of sabotage on American soil during World War II, and the Third Reich's first strike against America. The FBI provides evidence of German saboteurs active on the East Coast. They have been monitoring Nazi activity in the U.S. for more than 7 years. J. Edgar Hoover has been secretly authorized by President Roosevelt to gather information on German supporters within the United States. The FBI infiltrates the activities of the German-American Bund, a pro-Nazi association of German immigrants. Their members support U.S. isolationism. Their rallies mimic those staged by the Third Reich. In the summer of 1940, the FBI gets its first major break. William G. Siebold, a German-American, has been recruited by the German Secret Service while on a trip to Europe in 1939. But Siebold changes his mind. He approaches the U.S. consulate in Cologne, Germany, and agrees to become a double agent. Back in the U.S., Siebold makes contact with a German-American spy network. It is run by a South African named Frederick Duquesne, whose espionage career stretches back to World War I. In a classic sting operation, the FBI gives Siebold a new identity, Sawyer, and an office in downtown New York. Concealed cameras record the comings and goings of the Duquesne spy ring. J. Edgar Hoover provides the soundtrack.
That's Heinrich Closing, a cook on the liner Argentina. Closing's work was to act as courier, carrying military information. The important-looking man is Hartwood Kleiss, who worked for the United States line as a cook. The money Kleiss is given to Sawyer is for the purchase of a Leica camera to be used in his activities as a spy. In these pictures, Kleiss has brought to Sawyer the blueprints of the steamship America, showing the plans of her secret gun emplacements. There's Duquesne again, the leader of the ring and the most cautious of them all.
Duquesne is also filmed receiving the blueprints for an American fighter, conclusive evidence of spying. The FBI decides to bust the ring. At the subsequent trial, the 32 defendants are sentenced to a total of more than 300 years in prison. 25 of them are naturalized American citizens. Their capture ended the work of the largest single spy